This week on Capitol Report, Harris versus Trump, a fiery battle in their first presidential debate.
Donald Trump actually has no plan for you.
She doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan.
Also, the debate over the constitutional amendment that's on the ballot this election day.
What's on the ballot here in Connecticut would just say we can give an absentee ballot to every eligible voter who requests one.
We believe that this is a Trojan horse to bring in vote by mail.
Plus, Governor Lamont weighs in on the future of multi-state wind project partnerships.
We'll see.
And the UConn men make another White House visit.
There's no doubt at all about who are the blue bloods of basketball.
While Coach Dan Hurley answers questions about his underwear.
Well, it's not just the Dragons. I have Sharks, I have Wolves. I ride the hot hand.
So do we, Coach. So do we. Capitol Report starts now. Welcome to Capitol Report. I am Tom Dutch. We are so glad you're spending part of this Sunday morning alongside the panel where no dogs or cats will be eaten this morning, at least in this half hour.
That's our safe.
Danielle Wong, the mayor of Bloomfield, Connecticut. Good morning. Joe Arison has probably been to game dinner, Berlin Rod and Gun Club many times.
Yeah,
huh?
but no cat or dogs on the menu.
Okay. Liz Carrera is shaking your head. French Bulldog mom.
Yeah, listen, they're all very nervous.
Johnny McKinney, Newtown Rod and Gun Club. You probably had some good exotic food, right?
They don't invite me back.
No, okay. That's true. All right, guys, so it's been 64 years since the first televised presidential debate, and that historical fact begs the question, can we get any better than this? So last Tuesday, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump took part in what might be the only debate of the election season, and it is entirely possible the most memorable moment was the handshake to start the debate. And then a short time later, a baseless claims about immigrants stealing and eating pets. That aside, there's some fiery clashes, but then again, little substance when it came to the finer points on policy. And after the debate, News 8 spoke with two state lawmakers for their thoughts on the two candidates. Watch this.
She was coherent. She answered the questions. She illuminated what her vision for the U.S. was going to be. She highlighted exactly the differences between her and her opponent and why her opponent is incredibly dangerous for this country. And she highlighted the fact that she has a history, a long history of public service.
She did play a part as vice president. So she's obviously trying to set it up in a way, you know, she's trying to set her arguments up in a way as if to suggest that she should be given a blank slate to, you know, before she's judged on her administration. But that's not entirely fair either, because she is a part of the current administration.
All right, guys, a lot to break down. Number one, is Josh Elliott still going to have that hair when he's 60? But probably not, right? Danielle, what do you think?
Rep. Elliott looks great.
Okay, there you go. He's your pal.
He looks great.
Okay, break down Kamala Harris's performance.
From the start, the vice president dominated that stage. She showed that she was above and meeting the president, who had no intention of shaking her hand, by the way, across the stage. And so from the start to finish, she was, again, coherent. She dominated the stage. She was clear about what she wants to do. She delineated herself from the current administration, but you know, she does support some of the things that Biden administration is doing, and that's fine and that's great, because the Biden administration is doing an amazing job all the way around. And so it was exciting to see her, and I'm interested to see what my colleagues on the right have to say.
Liz, I'm sure you pushed back on that.
Well, I mean, to me, like, guys, let's remember, the bar was set so low after Joe Biden's debate in June that to say that the vice president was coherent is not exactly a win here, right? Look, the most important question, you guys, unlike me, have all served in public office. When you run for re-election, you have to look at your constituents and say, here are the things that I've done to make your life better. And I'm sorry, but Kamala Harris never answered that question. Not only did she not answer that question, but she couldn't tell anyone what was different between her and Joe Biden and how she was going to make people's lives better, whether that was to bring costs down, whether that was to improve the United States standing in the world and make us safer, or whether that was to secure the border. She couldn't address a single thing that was going to improve the lives of Americans.
Well, I think she was clear on the border. She said we had the bill. Donald Trump decided to use the bill that could have been passed and signed into law that would have an effect He decided to play politics with it, and that was a response to this. But for me, it was two basic issues. Could Vice President Harris get in front of the camera, get in front of the American people, and make the case that she's a strong, intelligent, caring leader? And I think she did that. What I think also disqualified Donald Trump, let's get away from the policy. He had two questions that were pretty much teed up for him to do the right thing, and he failed to do so. The question was, you know, was there any lapse in judgment, essentially, on January 6th? Absolutely not. I wasn't doing security. If you can't admit that, okay, maybe we can't make the case or yet make the case that he pushed him there. He had many lapses of judgment, but he has no perspective to admit to that. And then he still talked about a stolen election. It was not a stolen election. Those two make him unfit to even be on the ballot. Those are basic American principles that he couldn't just say yes to in front of the American people.
Johnny, I warmed you up for the segment before
this might be the last presidential debate we ever have in our lifetimes, or they're going to have to change the format, because this format with those moderators clearly didn't work. What amazes me is, and I fall into this trap too, we're all expecting Donald Trump to sort of conform to the norms. He shattered every political norm everybody's ever known. And what he wins with his supporters is he says, I'm an open book. You all know who I am. Don't expect me to be somebody I'm not. I think his best moment was his closing statement. He said, Vice President Harris has told you all these wonderful things she's going to do for you. Why hasn't she done them? And why isn't she in Washington right now doing them for you? She's trying to make this a change election, and it's really an election between two incumbents. And I think he effectively did that with that answer. It was probably one of his only good answers of the night.
Only good answer.
But let me just say this. These debates are like going to Yankee Red Sox games. You go to a Yankee Red Sox game and you see that one weird person that's got like a Dodgers, outfit on. But everybody else is wearing a Yankees hat or a Red Sox hat. And after the game, they don't switch hats. The guy doesn't come home and say, oh, I'm going to change and become a Yankee fan. Nobody's changed their minds after this debate.
There you go, Johnny Mac, breaking it down. One of the big questions here in Connecticut is how big an impact can a debate have on voters' attitudes on other down ballot races? Well, one in particular is the hotly contested 5th Congressional District in News 8. Spoke to Congresswoman Johanna Hayes and Republican challenger George Logan to get their feedback on the debate. One of the things we asked them about was Kamala Harris's proposal of extending a $6,000 child tax credit for families. Watch their answers here.
I absolutely support that. I have been a staunch advocate of making permanent the child tax credit. So to expand it and make it reach more Americans and more people in my district is something that I would absolutely support.
How is he going to pay for it? If the way to pay for that is higher taxes, if they're going to expect folks who are having a hard time paying for their groceries now to pay for another bloated program, I'm going to have an issue with it.
So, Liz, there's a thing called, so Hayes and Logan also weighed in on the Donald Trump era tariffs that Biden administration has kept in place. Both perhaps have some common ground on whether those tariffs are good ideas. Watch this.
To be clear, I am not in favor of across-the-board tariffs. Again, tariffs, I believe, is a part of the equation of improving our economy. But no, I do not believe in across-the-board tariffs.
A tariff is a custom, a duty. It's a tax, and there's no other way to call it. Nothing else to call it. It would be directly passed through to the American people, and we would be the ones to pay that.
Johnny McKinney, a tariff is a tax. I mean, these people that just say, we're going to, China's going to pay for it. China's not going to pay for it. The manufacturers pay for it.
We have tariffs right now. Trump imposed them. You know what Biden, Harris, and Johanna Hayes did? Nothing. She's had 3.5 years as a congresswoman. She hasn't put in a bill to undo the Trump tariffs. She's living with them. She's living with them. By the way, tariffs used to be supported by union, blue-collar working Democrats. Why? Because we want to build manufacturing and build and make products in America. The reason why they go to China is because you can use slave labor and build it for a penny. Tariffs, I think George Logan made a point, should be part of our overall economic conversation. And I think what we see the difference there between George Logan and Johanna Hayes is he's saying, if we're going to do a child tax credit, I like it. How are we going to pay for it? She has towed the Democratic line 99% of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're talking about tariffs and how we're going to toe the line, how are we going to pay for bonds for Ukraine? It's Budgets are about priorities. And when you set those priorities, that's what means more to the country and what we can do for everyone, from pocketbook issues to national security issues. So, you know, tax credits, they lift people out of poverty. We're talking about child tax credits, right? And Logan wasn't supportive of that when he was at the state legislature, but we're talking about nationally. And so when you're talking about Jahana Hayes, you're talking about her supporting Rosa DeLauro, who had toed the line for those Democratic, party lines for the child tax credit to be in sync right now. And so we need Jahana to get back into office, because she's a vote for DeLauro to get back in the leadership of the appropriations to continue to deliver for Connecticut. Logan is a vote for Johnson, and we cannot have that at the national level.
Let me just say this. The one thing I can tell you I definitely know after 16 years of service is that neither party had all of the answers, and neither party was right all of the time. George Logan has come out with a lot of platforms that are similar to Democrats against mass deportations. He supports a woman's right to choose. He has broken from his party. Jahana Hayes has never broken from her party. She can't be right all the time because the Democrats are not right all the time. I think the 5th District needs somebody who's going to work with both parties. George has done that. She hasn't.
All right, guys, up next on Cal Report, this November, there will be a ballot question about voting for the one you vote on. Why is this important? What could it mean for the future of Connecticut's elections? We'll discuss all of this and more with my pal, Mike Cerulli. When we get back, do not go away. All right.
Wait. That was good.
Voting yes on this ballot measure will amend the Constitution to allow the General Assembly to design the system of voting that works best for everyone, and if the General Assembly agrees, to allow everyone who desires, who's an eligible voter, to vote absentee.
State Rep Matt Blumenthal, top 5 hairs in the legislature, talking about an amendment to the state constitution that's on the ballot this fall. So joining us to talk about it is News 8's political contributor Mike Cerulli, who is probably one of the best hairs in the news business here in Connecticut. Mike,
I don't know about that.
Hey, so you talked with Blumenthal and legislative Republicans about this ballot question. What do you make of the situation?
Yeah, good morning to you, Tom. This question very well might be the most interesting thing on the ballot this year in Connecticut that nobody really seems to be talking about. And that's because it drives at one of the issues really at the center of our political discourse, and that is trust in elections. As you heard from Matt at the top, if voters say yes to this amendment, it would clear the way for any voter to vote via absentee ballot for any reason or no reason. Many state Republicans believe that Connecticut voters might balk at the idea of expanding access to absentee ballots following the scandal last year in Bridgeport. Take a listen to State Rep Dave Vertigliano.
We have film and video evidence of people harvesting ballots and putting them in drop boxes in the dead of night or early in the morning. I mean, people need to have faith in the election system.
Mike, what do Democrats like Matt Blumenthal say to that one, huh?
Yeah, well, Matt Blumenthal actually argues that no excuse absentee voting would actually curb misconduct. Take a listen.
If you know someone is not eligible to get an absentee ballot, and you know they're not going to get to the polls, but you're able to illegally get them an absentee ballot under our laws, even though they're not eligible, then you're getting essentially a free vote. So there's an incentive to cheat against our laws. And so if we get rid of these arbitrary restrictions, then actually there'll be very little incentive, in fact, no incentive, to try to cheat to get someone an absentee ballot when they're not eligible under our very specific laws, because they'll be able to get an absentee ballot for whatever reason they want.
And Tom, Blumenthal also points to academic research that finds fraud in no-excuse absentee ballot systems is rare. In this ballot question will really be a test. Do voters buy Blumenthal's argument? Do they buy the research he cites? Or have the seeds of doubt been sown deeply enough by Bridgeport and, frankly, by national Republicans to kill this measure?
Interesting questions, Mike. But on the broader issue of trust in our elections, Connecticut is making some changes to its ballot tabulators this year. You think that'll be an issue?
Right. The state is rolling out brand new paper ballot tabulators in 9 towns for this year's election and statewide next year. Officials say these tabulators, they're nearly identical to the current ones in terms of voter experience. They're just newer, and the current ones are showing signs of age. But of course, in this political climate, election equipment has been at the center of many baseless conspiracies. Here in Connecticut, politicians on both sides of the aisle are preemptively pushing back, stamping out those seeds of doubt we talk about. Take a listen to Governor Lamont and State Rep Tom Delnicki, a Republican who represents a town getting those new tabulators.
I love what it means in terms of integrity. I love what it means in terms of a paper ballot. I love the fact that it's a lot less likely to jam, a lot less likely to have problems, and you can double check.
Unlike some of the electronic Diebold, things like that, you don't have that factor of being able to say, hey, maybe this really didn't work. Well, this will work. The paper ballot is there, and it's sacrosanct, and it is 100% verifiable.
Two voices of reason, Mike Cerulli. Three of us, four of us on the panel voted the old days. We had to pull the curtain to vote and pull down these little things, all right, huh?
A different time, Tom.
Okay, Mike, thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Great to be here.
Hey, the old song goes, the answer, my friends, blowing in the wind. Was that really the case? We'll explain next when Calvin Report returns. Do not go away.
The old party lever.
The old party lever, yeah. Future's a tad cloudy when it comes to Connecticut being a teammate in the massive offshore wind initiative with Massachusetts and Rhode Island. The video you're looking at is from last October when it was announced the states would team up for a first-of-its-kind partnership with the hope of driving down expenses due to rising costs and supply chain issues. But hold the phone on whether Connecticut will get involved in future contracts with our neighbors. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey announced last week on new wind projects. She didn't mention Connecticut being involved, so we asked Governor Lamont about that. Here's what he said. Watch this.
We have regional partnerships in a lot of different ways. I mentioned Rhode Island and Connecticut are right now doing wind power. And to be determined what goes on going forward. But we're all making big contributions as we can as individual states to invest in the energy future, a green future for this region.
Governor was asked if he would make any decision about offshore wind before November 5th. For those of you not following along, that's Election Day. Watch what he had to say.
I'm cautious on this, as you know, so not for a while.
Well, he was at the meeting, but when it came to a press conference and he'd get before the cameras and talk about the great deal, Maura Healey's like, Ned, nowhere to be found.
Look, I think the governor is right to be cautious. Connecticut has a lot of balls up in the air right now when it comes to energy. We're complaining about the energy bills that are currently out there, one of which had to do with Millstone, an in-state nuclear power plant. You have wind, you have the EVs, you have, you're also looking at other solutions, the smart meters. We still haven't done that. Other states are 10 years ahead of us. I think the governor's right to be cautious. He is going to get the people around the table to have a discussion. We have so many issues out there. To go right into wind and have the consumers' bills go up again, I don't think he's comfortable doing.
The problem is we don't have a plan. We don't have a strategy, right? The governor says no to everything while other states are putting plans together and working towards lowering electric rates, and they are working towards a predictable plan and solutions. The governor said no to the Killingly plant. The governor says no to everything, and a lot of that goes back to having a one-size-fits-all approach to this. So, you know, the governor is responsible for this, and it's unfortunate because we're not participating in creating a better, more predictable and sustainable energy future.
And Danielle, how's that EV mandate working out? Oops, I guess it's not working out, right?
Well, it's not, and I agree with Liz. Like, we do need a plan and a structure and a business model that fits for Connecticut and not for in particular, you know, consumers or organizations that benefit off of these particular movements. But when you're talking about wind in general, and in theory, it's good. It's good for the economy. It's good for the climate. It is good for local job creation. It is good all the way around. How we do it is the issue. We need a plan. We need a plan to make sure that all agencies talk to each other and that it fits Connecticut for what Connecticut is. But Connecticut is behind when it comes to energy and environment, and we have to figure out a way to get together, figure out what the plan is, invest in that plan, and implement that plan.
I left the legislature 10 years ago. We were talking about smart meters there. Then I guess the land of steady habits means the lands of never doing anything. But Governor Lamont is right. He's talking about the ratepayers, putting the ratepayers first. That's where we need to be. That's where we should have always been, focusing on the ratepayers. We talked about Millstone, nuclear power. It's carbon-free. That is expensive, but wind is way more expensive than that, and that's going to be a shock to the ratepayers. I think the governor's very smart. Focus on the ratepayers. Our electricity rates are too high already.
All right, guys. Hey, so UConn coach Dan Hurley, in 7 words you can't say on television what he said at the White House. When we get back, you don't want to miss this. Don't go away.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. His wife wasn't there, huh? When you win the national championships, you get to go to the White House. And for the UConn's men's basketball team, they're becoming regulars at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And so last Tuesday, the team stood shoulder to shoulder with President Biden, who praised the Huskies' winning tradition, cracked a few jokes, and asked Coach Dan Hurley. He went blue in his routine. Watch this.
For the 6th time in just 25 years, UConn Huskies are atop the men's basketball world again, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought this would be easier in year 2. Oh, man, I've been to the White House before. This is scary. Stick to the script. All right. Thank you, Mr.
All right, guys, huh? What do you think about that, huh?
I mean,
well, he
listen,
is who he is. He's genuine.
This White House is very used to sticking to a script.
Well, and look, every time, if for those of us that have followed the team, we had Jim Calhoun. And if you could stand anywhere near Jim Calhoun when he's coaching, that's the least of the words he's ever used.
Right. Yeah, I've been on the field with you, Coach, and it gets pretty intense.
But what a flex by Coach Hurley. He used the visit to the White House to recruit 2 5-star recruits.
That's a power move.
Yeah, it is.
Look,
Power flex.
He's an incredible coach. He's our coach, and another national championship is coming.
Repeat, baby.
All right, guys, that'll do for Cal Report this week. For the mayor, the coach, Lindsay Kranowicz, Johnny Mack, and the Chick. See you next week.
Thanks for the cats and dogs.